Hello and welcome back to Good Game Nation, where we bring you all things TCG. My name is Preston, and today I'm bringing you my Set 1 Blue Purple Croc list. We decided to bring Croc out this week for our feature match coming later, so stay tuned to see that. But just to get you acquainted with Crocodile, he has a really great leader effect that allows you to when one Dawn is attached, you're able to draw a card when you play an event from your hand when you have 4 or less cards in your hand. Pretty lengthy effect, and it's written in a weird way. I think it would have been better if they would have added the once per turn at the top or something. But I do believe it's one of the better leader effects in the game currently, and it allows you to be able to draw often. And if you manage your resources properly and pilot it well, you should be able to hold up to most decks and take this leader to your locals to stand up to the best of them. Let's jump into the list now. Starting out with our Baroque Works package. I'm running 3 Miss All Sundays, 3 Bon Clay, Mr. 2, 2 of the 7-drop Crocodile, 4 Espadas, 2 Crescent Cutlass, and 3 of the Baroque Works event card. So we are running Baroque Works in this build. We feel like it has some decent synergy with the leader since they're all Baroque Works, and I think it's kind of how the deck was meant to be played. So this is a 17 card package, and I really think of it as an Espada Cutlass engine. The whole point revolves around getting those cards in your hand so that you can use them and then hopefully reuse them with Miss All Sunday. So this deck revolves around event cards using Baroque Works on your turn to trigger your leader effects, then pulling an Espada or a Cutlass or any counter card really to use on your opponent's turn to trigger your leader effect again. With 14 targets, you should be able to hit Baroque Works on a random chance, but this deck doesn't really take those chances. With 4 Perona and 2 Donquixotes, with 2 Doflamingos, and the previously mentioned Desert Espada, we should always know when to play our Baroque Works or even possibly hard playing Mr. 2. Getting either of these in an opening hand should get you set up for a whole match. Whenever I see Perona early, being able to see 5 turns into the future, know what I'm going to draw, set up for combos. If I need to have a card to discard, I can always place that card in a position in which I will have it so I can get rid of it. I always feel really comfortable with the Dolphy in an opening hand since he's a blocker. Having Perona is nice to see just as many cards and then possibly turn her into an attacker eventually. Moving on to our blocker group, with 2 Law, 2 Queen, and the previously mentioned Dofi and Miss All Sunday, this group is really going to help you get to your end game, redirecting attacks to them so your leader can continue to do its thing so that you can get into a comfortable position to play your big drops. And with that being said, 3 of the 4 of these have useful effects outside of blocking, which is a huge value to each one of these cards. Queen is one of our favorite cards here at GGN. I wish I could run more, but this deck list having dual color is quite tight. Moving on to our Warlords portion, the new cards are Mihawk and Teach, and 2 Overheat. The previous mentioned Law, Dofi, and Crocodile and some of the event cards are also Warlords, but I really wanted to talk about Teach and Overheat, and I didn't know how to fit them into the structure of this video since I was breaking everything up into some sort of loose connection of their types and what they do. Besides a poor format, in this video, I will make it work. Anyways, Teach is great for moving cards back to your hand with on-play effects and popping annoying cards on your opponent's side of the field. Overheat has the same functionality, except for it has that added benefit of being a counter that gives plus 4k. Now onto a clearly not thought out Mihawk transition. I don't know if you've noticed in previous videos, but we really like this card also. If you haven't seen videos in which we gush about how much we like Mihawk, go to any video on our channel that has Mihawk in the thumbnail. In this deck, we like to move cards from the top of our deck and find new things, keep digging and keep trying to get to those valuable resources. So having a draw 2, discard 2 for Mihawk keeps new cards coming into your hand so you can play new counters, but it also is going to enable you to keep your hand size small because it's not really adding anything. Your hand's not growing from this card, so it's really nice. It also is nice to be able to activate this before you activate something like Mr. 2 or the Baroque works that send everything back to the bottom, because you get those last few cards that you saw to your hand before you clear and start over. The final package in this deck is the Animal Kingdom Pirates. We're running 2 Who's Who, 3 Sasaki, 3 X Drake, 2 King, 2 of the 10-drop Kaido, 2 Blast Breath, and 2 Thunder Bayuga, as well as the previously mentioned Queen. This group is really the second half of the deck. The Baroque works is kind of our draw engine, and our Animal Kingdom Pirates are going to mostly be our offense and attacking, with everything else that I mentioned in the middle that I just stuffed into different groups as the bridge that's trying to hold these two groups together. These cards are going to do the work mostly on board. Who's Who is a great early game card to control the board. Sasaki is basically your sole ramp card in this whole deck, because when you're running the Thunder Bayuga, you really aren't going to be getting his ramp ability until late game, and most likely you're only going to be running your Thunder Bayugas after your big Kaido hits the board. In my opinion, at least, I think that's a great time to re-ramp when you just cleared your -6 on Kaido. Moving on to Drake, I think this is a disgusting late game card. Play it and your opponent loses a card from their hand, and if you hold it, it's a 2k counter, which is a perfect level of versatility from a 5-drop 5k attacker. Moving on to King. King is probably the best valued card in this game, or at least in this deck. Especially for our late game cards, having its effect only be a -2 doesn't faze me at all. We're going to regain 2 Dawn at the beginning of our next turn, so being able to do so much with that effect and then immediately recover from that is much different than from playing our Kaido, which is a -6, which takes several turns to catch back up. Especially with the low ramp in this deck, the Kaido hurts a little bit more. The 2 event cards in this group are fairly cheap and easy to trigger your leader effect, and on top of that, they're both 4k counters. And moving on to our Kaido, for when you really want to rebuild the board and take control by KOing everything. This is probably, in my opinion, personally my least favorite late game card in this deck. Like I was mentioning earlier, we don't have a ton of ramp, so going -6 on Dawn feels really steep when I'm playing it. But I understand why we play it in this deck and why we want to play it in this deck. Having an answer for Eustace, Captain, Kid, best card in the game, I think, is crucial, especially for something that I wouldn't consider, unlike many other Tier 1 decks that should have an answer for Kid. In purple decks, it has to be, or it seems to have to be, at least in set 1, to be the Kaido. Overall, I see this as a good Format 1 deck that will excel in the right player's hands. So far, when I've been doing test hands and playing with other guys at GGN, it's been really fun to play, being able to control the board, being able to set up fun little combos with cards off the top of your deck, and being able to guess what you're going to do in the future and be like, all right, I have this card in my hand. I know I'm going to be able to draw with Kaido's effect, and then look at the top few cards in my deck and pull a Baroque Works card out, and then be able to play that Baroque Works card. It just feels really nice, like you're actually doing something. When I often play aggro decks, you don't get the feeling that you're really using the game mechanics as much as you do when you're playing a combo deck, which this deck feels kind of like a combo control deck in my mind. With that being said, it's good to look forward towards the film cards. I intentionally left them out because the OP Sim doesn't have them included yet, and we wanted to make sure that we could play our feature matches in that because it's so much better. Link in the description, or check out the OnePiece TCG Discord, also linked in the description to find it. But those film cards could fit really well. We didn't test them too heavily, but I've been looking at them, and I know that the meta really leans to have a nice tight film package that you can toss into your purple decks. And with Douglas Bullet being an incredible attacker and oppressive force, I could definitely see blue-purple Croc running the film package. There's also cards like the Kaido promo that adds 1 Dawn at the end of every one of your turns, which I feel like would have a really fun synergy with all the -1 Dawn effects that this deck runs. But with all the blue-purple cards within reach, this deck building stage becomes so important to nail down the correct card counts and to make the difference in competitive play. Your build really matters. But with that being said, I think that wraps up today's deck list video. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Is there anything I missed? Should I be? Is there anything I missed or should be playing instead of what you saw today? Give us a like if you enjoyed this video, and a subscribe if you want to see more One Piece TCG content. Until next time, thank you and bye.